And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14, the final episode of Tarot Brunch at the Roundtable. Today, we're going to talk about the Kings. And with me, of course, is Carla from Call Astrology, and our special guest today is Zach from the Tiger's Abyss. Hello.
Hi.
Or hello again. You've been with us twice already, so now you're finishing up the whole series with us. And yeah, we're glad to have you here. And to everyone who's watching us, hello. And yeah, if you have anything interesting about the Kings, chat with us and let's talk about the Kings. So since we have different systems, we're going to talk, like RWS and Thought, we're going to talk about all the people that are depicted on thrones and in chariots. So either kings or prince in whichever system, because we already did all the horse people in episode 12. So that's already done. Okay. And the order we're going to go in is wands, cups, swords, and coins. All right. So should we just jump right in and get started? Okay, I'm going to start with you, Carla. Would you like to talk about the King of Wands? Let me just see. Can I do this? There we go.
All right. Well, the King of Wands is like, if I'm going to associate what I learned with the Myers-Briggs as a tool for archetyping, then the King of Wands is anything, or well, I can just tell you real quick what the personality type is. The King of Wands is the ENTJ. So I'm only going to concentrate on all the kings being extroverted, and having a J on the end of that means that they're judging. That means they make the good judgment calls. They're the ones that are like a master of their domain. And so the King of Wands is he's the master of his magic, spirit, fire. He's all about vision. And so I also looked up, like, he's got a lion and a salamander. And what I think that is interesting with the being the fire element is the salamander is he is immune to fire. And so, and then they also have like the Ouroboros is like he's eating his own tail, and then they use the salamander for that. So it's like, even though he's immune to fire, he's still a symbol of rebirth. And then you also have the blossoming wand, which is like creativity. And the salamander is also like a powerful omen. So he is the survivor of the fire. And I grabbed out a couple different, I just got the modern spellcasters. So let's see if I can get that glare off there. And really all I was looking for with my decks was like similarities, you know. So here you see still got the blossoming wand. But there's a difference in the spellcasters that I noticed. Like the King of Wands is the element is air, but I still see similarities with it. He's not on a throne, but you know, I had to get my seers out, and he is well, he has the lion, which is kind of like, so you have all your fire signs. So you have Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. And I think the King of Wands is, isn't it the Sun or Jupiter in Sagittarius? I think. I couldn't tell you right offhand. But in the myths and legends, it's Merlin. So, and nice. I remember Carol, Practical Mystic Carol was talking about how the wands are very symbolic, not just of sexual energy, but of magic. So I thought that was really cool that they have Merlin on there. So That's really all that I have that I pulled out for. Oh nope, I take that back. I did get my my supernatural. So
Of course.
yeah, so that is the King of Bones, and you and I were talking about this. This is Metatron. So, and he's responsible for writing down the Word of God, but he's in a very powerful position. He's sitting up in heaven. So, he's creating. So, I mean, I guess maybe. um, and that's all that I have. I mean, I'll let you guys explain what, the like implications of the King of Wands is.
Okay. Well, then over to you, Zach.
Oh, my turn.
Stage is yours.
I'm like, I usually see the King of Wands as like just the leader, the visionary leader, but could also become quite a bit of a tyrant sometimes. Very close to the Emperor, I feel.
Yeah.
He's associated to the fixed sign of Leo, which is why you always see like a lion in the background. You see him in the Thoth with the Leo with the lion pulling his chariot, which I think Crowley put like special like significance on the Prince of Wands, putting his sigil on his chest there and all that, because I believe, I'm not sure what placements he had on Leo in his chart, but I'm like, maybe it was his ascendant, I can't remember, or his midheaven, I don't know. I can't remember. I didn't look at Crowley's chart. But there's a lot of like connections to the sun and illumination as well. And I'm not quite sure what else to touch on. I mean, I guess with like the Marielle, we have here being a combination, having a combination of symbols of the two eyes of Horus, as well as I believe it's Sumerian, ancient Middle Eastern, Mesopotamian symbol of the sun on his forehead. And his hair is like radiating this fiery light, but below him he has this darkness below, consisting of his body, and his shoulders are very weird too. I don't know. There's something, always something more with the Marielle, but the darkness below him, it reminds me a lot of this King of Wands here, which makes me think like, wait, maybe I got the wrong one. I should have gone with the warriors, but we'll get into that with the Tree of Life, because you see there's a thin line behind his throne, that thin dotted line there, and that right there is supposed to represent the supernals, where you see he's associated to Hokmah, so he's like way at the top of the Tree of Life, and the globe beneath him is either Binah or Malkuth, and so that's where that darkness that he's directing his power and his influence onto, with his scepter pointing down. And I'm not sure what else to show. We have that scribe. I have another card from the Byzantine Tarot with like the scribe, but he's more like an accountant, I think. Or maybe he's a scribe, or maybe he's writing laws. Point is, there's writing being done here. I'm not sure if it's Horus and Ra. I'm like, it's the left and the right eye. They have different significations. I'm like, I have to double check what it was. I know one was lost and became the moon, I believe, and the one remained as the sun. So, which is a motif throughout many mythologies. I believe Odin has that as well, and I don't know who else, but I think Odin. I think I say many, and I'm like, maybe it's just Odin. Odin and Horus. Ra is more just pure sun, I believe. Anyways, what else? Here we have the Universal Tarot with very much that Michael slaying the dragon here, but here it's quite different. It's much more, there's a lot going on. There's a white serpent being slayed, and a warrior here. It's not so much golden solar energy so much as more martial, more Mars focused, in my opinion, very warrior-esque. And let's see, anything else? not that I can think of. Here's an interesting one. This is a new one that I just got, and I was like, "Is this?" And I'm like, "I think it is." I need to read the guidebook on it, but first impressions is giving me like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it is it's cyberpunk, and so it's like technology, and he's on a stage and he's presenting this new technology to them. It's the iPhone, you know. And so it's definitely that inspirational type of person that we, you know, make like 3 billion movies out of, even though like we don't really care anymore. Like, you know, it's that type of thing, you know. Let's see, they call the king the strategist. I like that. The king as a strategist, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Jonathan.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay.
There's way more, but
There's always more.
Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
Okay. So let's get back to the Golden Dawn beginning. So here is the card from the Robert Wang deck. And here they are called Prince. And in the Hermetic Tarot, you see that's the glare there. That's like this. And the Initiatory Golden Dawn looks like this. Okay. So let's go with this one. So, yeah, in the Golden Dawn, they're called Prince of Wands. He is the heir of fire. And as we can see, here the kings don't sit on a throne. They're actually in a chariot. And something that all the kings have, they have wings, which to me, when I was like writing down all my notes, one question is like, okay, if they all have wings, why do they need to be in a chariot? Or even the knights that we talked about in episode 12, they also have wings. Like, why do they need a horse? Side question. Note to self for later. Okay, so he is in a chariot that's being drawn by the lion. Underneath is his element, fire, and he's holding the typical wand that we already know from the suit of wands, and his crest on his armor is a winged lion's head. And yeah, so his wand is like a torch, fire torch. And he is described as swift, strong, hasty, kind of violent, but also just and generous, noble, and he can't stand meanness. Ill-dignified, he can be described as cruel, intolerant, prejudiced, ill-tempered, and astrologically, he rules the last decan of Cancer to the second decan of Leo. So his element here in this deck is air. So he is, in this system, the son of the king and queen, so to speak. So water and fire together make air. That's he is the son of them. So he carries the influence of both of his parents. He's quick, he's enduring. Not as strong as the king or queen, but he does possess great strength. He struggles hard to accomplish his goals sometimes. He's very active, courageous, has a great sense of humor, and he can also be full of pride. So that's how the Golden Dawn describes this one. Now, in the RWS, he is fire of fire. And when we look at the picture, like he's not looking at us, he's looking away, and it kind of looks as if he's trying to get away. Like it's just like, I don't really want to be here. So he doesn't really care about what's going on with us. The Salamanda on the throne that Carla already mentioned that eats his own tail represents the cycle of cosmic energy, which is never dissipating. But the question is, what does he get from that energy? Or if a card comes up in a reading, what do we get from that energy? What do we use of that energy? As a person, he can be described as an awful parent, kind of cold, emotionally unavailable father figure, or even an unfeeling mother. He is not, or his lap is not the inviting lap to climb on and to be comforted by. And he's the one you may want to shake and say, look at me, talk to me, like, what are you feeling? Tell me. You know, he's the one who's holding everything close to himself, and his response is most likely going to be not much, not really thinking about anything. And that might actually be true. Like, he's not really involving himself in too much stuff. So yeah, he doesn't express much feeling. On the other hand, he's highly intuitive, and he doesn't really have much to offer in a relationship. He's kind of elusive and closed off within himself, disengaged from feelings, but he's doing that by choice. And this always reminds me of people that may have been in some kind of emotional trauma, maybe as a child with maybe an absent parent, and then they grew up to be the kind of absent-minded parent themselves, or you know, the parents were just busy all the time, and so they had to basically entertain themselves, and that carries on through adulthood, and then that's just the way that they parent as well. So he can be very self-centered, and on the other hand, he would make a great psychotherapist, because even though he doesn't talk about his own feelings, but he's very good when it comes to extracting feelings out of other people and their thoughts. And so he can see through people's bullshit. And he can therefore lead you to the truth, to your truth, whatever it is that you want to discover about yourself. And he can't be manipulated emotionally, because he just doesn't go that way. And esoterically speaking, he kind of reminds me of the magician with the wand, and you know, the wand reaching for the cosmic power and being grounded at the same time. So yeah, he is the master of his own soul. He's unspoiled, unconcerned by the demands of the outside world. Sometimes he's a bit full of himself, and yeah, he can be very close-minded. He sees himself as the standard measure for things, so he has a slightly inflated ego. Sometimes he starts arguments just for the fun of it, just because he can, and he wants to get a rise out of people. It doesn't mean that he's actually trying to make a point. Sometimes it's just for fun. And he can be the rags to riches story, or he can also simply be the kind of guy who's just not that into you. Okay, so here's some other cards in the Lo Scarabeo Tarot. He's actually standing in front of his throne, but he's also not looking at us. He's pointing somewhere else, so his mind is already occupied with other thoughts. Like he's constantly elsewhere with his mind. In the Vampire deck, here in the back is the army. They're ready to march, and he's got the torch, and he's ready to give the command. But he is kind of like behind the army. He's looking like, are you coming? Like he can be very persuasive, but for some reason he doesn't really put himself in front of the line. Like he's kind of giving the command from behind the scenes. So playing it safe. And the Housewife's Tarot, yeah, he's the king of the house. Like he will do all the fixing and stuff. He will do it his way. It's not necessarily the correct way. He will MacGyver his way around the house. Mm-hmm. So as long as it works, it's all good. So don't tell him how to do stuff, because he will figure it out. So, and was it Inkwitch Tarot? Here we actually have an animal. And here we have the salamander as well. But yeah, this one is like very like proud. Look at me. Oh my God, yes. One of my favorite King of Wands in the haunted house. He is actually a vampire. He has just bitten her. She has those tiny little holes with blood coming out, and he's now waiting for her to wake up. So he's been seducing her, and yeah, things have to go his way. It's his way or the highway. And in the Arcana, here, yeah, he looks very strong. Like, don't mess with me. Like, I know exactly what's right and what's good. So I'm going to do it my way. Don't get in my way, kind of thing. Very stern look. Like, yeah. I don't think, like, just looking at him, like, people don't really want to mess with him. Like, this is not the kind of guy you want to get into an argument with.
Not much of a leader type of figure, but more defensive. Interestingly, there, I feel like so many of the kings are kind of spacing out, not necessarily spacing out, but more like they're so focused on their aspirations. They're always looking above and away. Like they're always looking away from the crowds and the majority of it, even though, like, back to this King of Wands that I have here, where his power does influence the greater world below, he's still very much into the spirit, into the fire of aspiration away from the majority. I found that.
Yeah. Like when I was going through all the kings, I was like, they're not really all that. Like, that's just like, I don't know. I guess the horse people were kind of more what I was
more
expecting
active.
The kings to be in a way.
Yeah. The knights are very much like engaging and will do and take action. Rather, the kings are, armchair magicians.
Yes, very much. Well, since you're already here, why don't you continue with the King of Cups?
Oh, already.
Already.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the King of Cups, associated to Scorpio. Honestly, even though he's like my favorite, in the kings, at least, or the princes, Crowley writes that he's like very like cunning and very like almost like a spy. Like you can't really trust them. Like he doesn't really write very positively about the kings or the princes in his deck, surprisingly. I don't know why that is, but I always found the King of Cups as like emotionally stable. The counselor, the daddy. Here we have the drowning alchemical king here, in the Terror of the Holy Light. The King of Cups, I believe the cup is on fire here, which one might think is associating to fire. But
we got a troll.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you for your concern, but we're good.
Yep.
Bye. I'm like, wait, I wanted to get into it. No. Let me get back to this. The next one is another drowned king in the Marielle. Is he drowning? We're not sure. I mean, he is Neptune.
It's kind of floating.
Right. And like that. What is it? The suspension, the sensory deprivation tanks type of thing, You're just free there, floating in pseudo amniotic fluid. What else is there? What else is there to show from the king? So I'm like, one of them that I read up on the Terror of the Spirit is she changes them to brother, and so the knights are father. But I'm like, they're fixed signs, we're gonna stick with them. So this is also to Scorpio, and she talks about how he is like waist deep in like the dark subconscious, or in the dark waters of the subconscious, yet he has, if my camera will focus on it, he has, I believe she might be referencing them to like the chakras, the centers on his body, but as an antenna that receives spiritual divinity from up above and connects to that, communicates with that, and I believe that's the main focus on there, the receiving divine information into the subconscious, something like that. How that would relate well to the reading, I'm not sure. Probably plunging into the depths is probably more like it. So I guess maybe that antenna should be upside down, you know, receiving what's under the water rather than above it. I don't know. She designed it. She had her own way. She has her reasons, I'm sure. I guess one deck that I would like to show, and it might spoil all the rest of them, but I think in general, like I feel like all these kings in this deck kind of give off the vibe that I get from every other King of Cups is the, oh my gosh, it's me forgetting the name of it. But it's this one. All the kings kind of give like a King of Cups vibe. Like they're all in like warm, cozy sweaters, and I feel like they would all be having a warm cup of coffee or hot chocolate or something.
Yeah.
rather than like the aspirational leader, commander, banker, strategist that's very devoid of it. I feel like these are much more the guiding father figures that we kind of want in our lives. And so more specifically, here's the King of Cups.
Yeah, that looks kind of more like the father of the king who already had his turn, and now he's just the advisor in the background.
Yep. He's in retirement. He's just like, but yeah, I don't have actual power, but I'm like, I'm going to tell you the best way to handle this. Which, talking about the King of Wands, I'm like, this is kind of giving like the dad from Succession, where he's just like this asshole and a part of this massive media company, and he's like very cold and an asshole to his children, but he runs this company quite well, and very successfully and very tyrannically. And even though he's old and dying, he refuses to let go of the power in that position, but always stringing along the kids to do his bidding so that he can saying like, oh, if you like, oh, I'll eventually give you the company, I'll make you CEO. It's never gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
From my cold dead hands.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think, yeah, no spoilers
And hello to everyone coming in. Thanks for joining us. All right. Well, Carla, over to you.
Funny story. When you were showing the card where the king is standing in front of, commanding, but he's, doing this, I think of that dog that's the little dog that's always going, and then he turns his butt to you like, so you don't get, if you're going to bite him, you might as well bite him there. Or if you're going to, get my butt first. I was thinking of that. Sorry, my mind is very corrupt. But anyway, so like with the King of Wands, one thing I had read was that he's looking into the future, and then the King of Cups is just kind of staring off into the distance. So he's like contemplating everything that's around him, and he's still, like, you can see the ocean is kind of, the water is very tumultuous, but he's still very calm. So he's like emotionally intelligent. So even though the kings can't be deceived, this one is the manipulator, or he can be the manipulator, because he is still master of his emotions. The cup symbolizes the emotions. The scepter is all about power and control. And the necklace, I believe, is creativity and spirit. So he's still thinking his actions through, and I'm pretty sure that is this one. I'm not positive, but I think it's Neptune and Pisces, maybe. Or at least I always think of the kings as all the water signs. So, I mean, I couldn't really tell you if I'm right or if I'm wrong. So anyway, in the spellcasters, he has the two dolphins up there, and you can see like that's like looks like Neptune. His scepter is symbolic of the ocean. So, and his feet are kind of in the water, but he's not in the water. He's still up, just close to it, which is pretty cool. The King of Cups in the Light Seers, he's meditating. So he's like he's in balance with everything that's going on around him. He's, even though, there's a lot going on, he's finding balance in his emotions. I also grabbed out, where did I do it? Oh yeah, Myths and Legends. So it's the Kraken. Release the Kraken.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, we all know that this thing was very fierce when released. So I would imagine that kind of like the Queen of Cups, if she keeps it bottled in for too long, once it comes out, it's like, look out. And then in the King of Cups, which is in the Supernatural, he's called the King of Goblets. So he is the alpha vampire. And so it's that Cancer feel to it, because he would like make vampires, but he was like, they were his children. So he cared for all of his children, and he took that serious. So I mean, he is the father, the daddy figure that you were talking about, at least in my opinion. He pretty much, he was good at that. So yeah, that's really all I have for the kings. Is pretty much everything that you said about the King of Cups. That's what I got.
So we got a question here. Who's more emotional unstable, King of Cups or King of Wands?
Wands.
I would say Wands too. Yeah.
I'd say it depends on the mood of the day. It can be a coin toss.
Right. Who's more in balance would be, I think the King of Cups has more of the ability to stay in balance, whereas Wands isn't really, they don't know how to work with their emotions.
Okay. So here is the Robert Wang deck and the Hermetic Tarot. And in the Initiatory Golden Dawn, he looks like. Okay, so we have the Prince of Cups, and he's also called the Prince of the Chariot of Waters, and he is the heir of water. Chariot is drawn by an eagle, and the eagle is also his crest that's on his chest, and his crown also has like eagle wings. And yeah, we see the cup. Out of the cup comes a serpent, and in the other hand, he is holding a lotus, and his armor, that's not scales, that's supposed to be like feathers here. Okay, so he is he's the subtle, crafty, artistic, fierce nature kind of guy. And he has a calm exterior, but he can also be violent. So depending on the mood, especially with the water signs, like moods are a thing. So he can be intensely evil and merciless, just like the water, basically, just like his element. Astrologically, he rules from 20 degrees Libra to 20 degrees Scorpio. And yeah, his energy is volatile and changeable. He's more warlike than his brother, the Prince of Wands, because of his mood swings that he can have. He can be very mysterious, erratic. He can be a catalyst for good or destructive energies. There's a great intensity behind the calm exterior, so he may not always show what's really going on inside of him. In a way, he's kind of like quicksand. It doesn't really look scary from the outside, but once you're in, everything is happening fast and you don't even know how to react this quickly. And so, yeah, the snake in the cup is the symbol for Scorpio and for its transitional energy. So that was what the Golden Dawn has to say about the Prince of Cups. And in the RWS, he is Fire of Water, the King of Cups. And it looks like his throne is actually like a stone kind of thing floating on water. And from the look on his face, it doesn't look like he actually wants to be there. Like he's looking at something else, and it's like not really engaging with us, with anyone who's directly in front of him who comes to see him. And he might even be unaware of the cup that he's holding. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so he's like, who, me? Like, are you talking to me? That kind of person. So he looks like someone who's not consciously processing his emotions. His posture makes it seem like he's trying to get away. Once again, like his feet, one is already in a different direction. So I don't know if I want to stay here. Yeah, but he's the king of emotions. But that doesn't mean that he actually wants to feel the emotions himself. He might actually not want to do that. So that means that he sees emotions as kind of a distraction from his work and from what he's actually trying to accomplish and from what's expected of him. His duty and responsibility, he can do that better without emotions. And yeah, I don't know if he actually really wants to be king, or if it's like, well, can I go now? You got this, right? Like, you can do this without me. So, yeah, feeling all the emotions might be something that is a bit scary at some point. So, especially if the emotions make you lose control, or when you get that feeling of, oh my God, the emotions are just overwhelming me. And so with the King of Emotions, it's easier to just put them to the side instead of dealing with all of them. The good thing is this enables him to deal with stuff while putting his feelings to the side. And yeah, so he can have a clear mind and do things unemotionally. So he's also a good poker player, which means that, for example, as a father, it doesn't matter how he feels. If he has his children to take care of or his family, like, he will do that. He will, like, his responsibility and duty comes first, his feelings come second. So he might not want to let his family and kids in particular see how he's feeling, so that the people don't worry about it, and also so that he doesn't get the questions like, oh, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it? No, he doesn't. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes what he feels if he doesn't really let it out. So even in a very tough situation, he may smile and give everyone the feeling that everything's fine. And yeah, he may put other people's feelings first in order to avoid his own. So he's the kind of person who's also willing to sacrifice. But of course, that's not necessarily a good thing. So his area, like in the modern world, could be law, academia, science, or even spirituality. He can be a good teacher, judge. He's relatively fair. He's compassionate, impartial. In reverse, this can also be a card that's talking about fraud in any kind of way. And if this comes up in reverse in reading, that might be telling you that the situation is like, it just wasn't a fair fight. No matter how it happened, it just wasn't a fair fight. and this had nothing to do with you. There's nothing you could have done about the situation. This was beyond your control. The game was rigged, and you may have to find your fulfillment elsewhere. Okay. In the Los Scarabeo Tarot, here we don't have a snake. Here he actually has a crab sitting on his shoulder that he's interacting with. This is kind of giving me like the dad of Ariel with Sebastian kind of vibes. And the Vampiria, here the interesting, he has this mirror in his hand, and the Big Dipper is reflected in here. So yeah, he's good at reflecting other people's stuff, but not his own. Like if we remember the Queen in this deck, she has the mirror right in front of her heart. So yeah, she's reflecting what other people give her. But she's actively working with that, but he is not even looking at the mirror. So it's like, nah, I'm not getting into that. Like, it's there, I know I can handle it, I can deal with it, but don't ask me about it. And the Housewives Tarot, here's like, yeah, coming home after a long day, let me just drink my beer. I don't want to talk about my feelings. Just let me sit here. Let me watch my sports channel. It's all good. Or even here, like, he's fishing, he's doing his thing. The cup is very far away from him. It's there. He could also fish it out of the water, but he chooses to just leave it there. In the Arcana, yeah, like with his body, like having the arms closed, like from what we know about body language, that's like, no, I'm keeping my feelings to myself. Don't, like, this is like closing off to other people, like keeping his things shut in, not letting other stuff get to him. And also here we have the snow and the ice, so it's kind of cold. Like he might be willing to deal with other stuff, but not with his own. And in the Haunted House, here we have him as an angel, and he's sitting in a pool house. And if we remember the Queen, she was standing in the pool, kind of like walking towards him in a way. And he's sitting here, he's holding his cup, and he's just watching. And yeah, he doesn't have his feet in the water or anything. He's just watching, looking, observing, without sharing too much of himself. Like, this is the kind of, you tell me what you want. You tell me what you're all about. Don't ask me about myself. Okay, so let's move on to the King of Swords. Carla. You're muted.
Your mic is off.
Hello.
Now we can hear you.
Okay. The King of Swords, he's all about truth, and he is head over heart. So he rules with his head and ignores what the heart is telling him. So he can be, he could be very, like, might feel very cold. So he is, got a double-edged sword, because also, you know, he's king of the air, which and king of, you know, words, truth, the things that we speak. In fact, I just got the Muse Tarot, and in the Muse Tarot, he's called the voice, king, Muse of voices. So, and the double-edged sword is kind of like, you know, ruling with truth and justice. Sometimes you're going to hurt feelings. You know, so you need to be impeccable with the word, because if you're not, that's what happens. Let's see what else is in the card. I was looking up, like, symbolically. He looks like he's bigger than the world. I think that's interesting. He's got the butterfly on his throne, and the butterfly is symbolic of transformation. The blue tunic is supposed to be spirituality. So, I mean, he's also the person that wants to tell you how to believe. So, and the King of Swords is all the air signs. So that's your Libra. I think more Libra, aren't they fixed? So I pulled out my spellcasters, and even though the spellcasters, the element is fire, he still looks like what I would see as a King of Swords. And interesting, we have a wolf. I read today that wolves and crows, and like crows, I see a lot of winged beings on winged creatures on the King of Throne or King of Swords, King of Thrones. Anyway, the wolf and the crow have always had a very special relationship. Like they communicate and they take care of each other in the wild. I just thought that was very interesting. So in the Light Seers, the king calls upon all of his winged friends. And he is very very severe, you know. I mean, that's what he looks like to me. He looks very severe. And of course, you know, mental aspect. He's intelligent, very logical, very discerning. And again, he could be detached, but honest, very high morals. In the myths and legends, this is Mithra. So, and he is the god of justice. So, I'm thinking there's a couple different like cultures where he is identified as Mithra, but he's still the god of justice. So I thought it was interesting that they used him for that. And in the supernatural, the King of Blades is the original Cain. So, and he had to be very cunning because he gave his mark of Cain to Dean. Yeah. And so, I mean, and he wasn't really very honest, I don't think, when or he made a pact with Dean. I don't remember, but so I think they also are capable of maybe manipulating with words also. So I mean, I mean, when you're off balance, you also could be a big liar, a big fat liar. But anyway, that's all I have for the King of Blades. King of Swords.
Amy said, King of Swords says things out of duty. I mentioned Severus Snape as the King of Swords. Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Yep. I could see that.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Zach.
Okay, so it's my turn now.
Mhm.
Okay, so like the King of Swords, he's the most Yetziratic of the cards, I think. Since the kings are based on Tiferet and swords is Yetzirah, it's like the center of the tree that we see with the King of Swords. I usually he doesn't want to stay in the car. He doesn't want to be shown. He's like, I've already been seen. I'm like, no, stay there. I'm trying to show you. Okay, so I usually see him as Solomon. Though Solomon can honestly be like from the Magician to the King of Cups and the King of Coins and the King of he's like all of them put together. But for the most part, I see him as the King of Swords just because he knew what to ask for, I think, and he knew like how to. He led with his mind and his words, especially with the most particularly do we see this with decision making and being clever with what he says and how he weeds out the truth, especially with the story of the two sex workers that one of them accidentally kills her baby, and so she switches her baby with another, and so then they go to court. King Solomon threatens to slice the baby in half so they can have each half, and he knew that through the heart of the true mother, that she would spare the child, whereas the one that just wanted something because she lost something would have settled for anything. And so that's how she was able to find that, which what somebody points out in that clear decision making of the sword that he has is slightly tilted away from him in one direction. And whereas with the Queen of Swords, you see that it is directly straight down and is very exact, whereas he has a choice that has to be made. He's associated to Aquarius, which allows him to break out of the mold and allows him to think outside of the box a bit. I don't know what else there is to say, though. Writing and being a scribe as well, I've seen him as very heady. I find him. He always stalks me, I feel. He's one of the stalker cards I get. And here we see that there's something interesting here with the feathers in his head. The only time I've ever seen a crown of feathers in like previous decks is in the Fool card in the Visconti's Forza, with the crown of feathers in his head as well. What to make of that, I'm not sure. Like something about creativity and experience and knowledge versus folly and ridicule and buffoonery. There's like a thin line between the two, I think. What else? What else is there to say? I think that's it. Oh, one more. I'm like this is from the Kazan Tarot. We see Osiris with the King of Swords. Okay, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because the only other place that I've seen, it's not, he doesn't get the King of Swords, but Heindel does something a little different, and that is the Father of Swords in this author, the King of Swords here is Ra, but the sun or the night is given Osiris. So I'm like, is there something going on there with the change of the organization or the thoughts of what one viewed the other with kings and knights and sons and fathers and or brothers and fathers? I don't know. To me, the king is associated to Aquarius. But most people, if they say all air signs, they kind of relegate that to even all the rest of the court cards as well, from the pages and the queens and the knights. They also say that as well. It's really, to me, it's like whatever vibe you feel is right, whether it is or not. But to me, I like to keep it strict and limited to Aquarius. So yeah.
Okay. So, King of Swords. In the Robert Wang deck, he's the Prince of Swords. In the Hermetic Tarot, he looks like this, and he is called the Prince of the Chariot of Winds. And in the Initiatory Golden Dawn, he looks like this. Okay, let's go with this guy. So, yeah, we can see once again he sits in a chariot, and the chariot is being drawn by what I read are two arch fairies with butterfly wings. So these are not angels, and you can see the wings are very different from the ones that he has. He is, no, some of these are holding a wand with a 5-pointed star. Like here, oh, it's a bit blurry, but some of them also have that wand in their hands. And in some cards, the 5-pointed star might be like here, they have like headbands where they have the stars around their head. But the 5-pointed star is usually with the fairies. And yeah, so his crest is a winged angel head. And he also has that on his crown. And yeah, he is gliding or riding over the clouds. He has a sword in one hand and a sickle in the other. And with the sword, he rules. With the sickle, he slays. So this is the kind of person, he's full of ideas and thoughts and desires. He can be distrustful. He can be suspicious. He's very firm in friendships. He's also careful. Sometimes a little overcautious. There's a little bit of overthinking energy in here. He symbolizes Alpha and Omega, the giver of death, who slays as fast as he creates. No more scary tales? Well, we'll see. Not as scary as Salome, though, no. Ill-dignified, he is talked about by the Golden Dawn as harsh, malicious, plotting, and unreliable. Astrologically, he rules from 20 degrees Capricorn to 20 degrees Aquarius, and he is the perfect representation of the human mind. He has some of the harsh qualities of the Queen, but his plans are sometimes without purpose. So the Queen is the more fierce one out of this couple. He goes on a lot of tangents before completing any, and his mind is all over the place. Not many plans actually ever reach manifestation. He's brilliant, but unattached to practical matters. That's how the Golden Dawn describes him. Now, in the RWS, excuse me, oh, and this is air of air, and here we have fire of air, the king. So like the Queen, he's also kind of like sitting above the clouds in a way, at least like the way that he is depicted here. If the phone is shaking, it's my cat. So yeah, the slightly tilted sword, Zach, you have already mentioned that. So I see that, like, in contrast to the Queen, like, her sword was very straight up, and so she is the one who demands the absolute truth. Like, she is the one who's like, this is how it's going to be. And he is the one, he's got a little bit more of a practical approach to things. So things are not always completely black and white with him, and that's why I see his sword tilted. The two birds in the sky, I read that in one of my books, they were called Justice and Experience. And out of all the kings, he's the only one who looks at us directly. All the other kings are like looking elsewhere. He's the only one who really looks at us. So he's challenging us by asking us, so is your life a life of truth? And does that express the truth of your beings? Are you really true to yourself? Are you living in truth? He also has to consider what is practical and what is just. So he is the kind of guy who serves justice with compassion. So when something, like if he has to judge over something and something was done wrong, for example, stealing, like there's two different kinds that he may look at it. He will see, okay, if you were stealing food because your family is hungry, then that's a very different thing compared to stealing something because of greed. So he does differentiate between reasons behind things, and so his verdict will also represent that. And yeah, he looks kind of comfortable on his throne, and he has earned his position through his intellect and his will. So he worked his way up. He wants to be here. He is clear thinking, he's brilliant, he's successful in his job. He can be cruel, he can be abusive. Normally, he's kind of a fair guy, wise and admired, and a good ruler in a place that requires sound and merciful judgment. But he's not one to argue with. He controls the situation. His sword is not an accessory. He will use it. And when this card comes up, it might be time to judge your life or even your work performance, possibly. your actions, and this is a card of consequences. So this is not the I will apologize for things and then all will be forgiven. That's not him. So there are consequences with this. Is a card of authority, so get ready for whatever is coming when this card comes up in a reading. In reverse, this card also talks about corruption, absolute power plays. Can even go so far as to say that he might be a sadist, making people feel bad to make himself feel better. So yeah, fairness is not part of his game. Okay, now, yeah, just like the queen in the Los Scarabeo Tarot, he also has the severed head. She had a male head, he has a female head. So yeah, this is definitely talking about consequences, but also here his sword is tilted, so he will make a just ruling. Thanks for being here, B. In the Vampiria Tarot, here he's also, this kind of reminds me of Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. The man who passes the sentence must also swing the sword. So whatever he does, like he's willing to do it himself. He doesn't just tell other people to do it. He's willing to get his hands dirty as well. And that is something that I can respect. In the Housewife's Tarot, here, yeah, this barbecue thing is definitely too long for that grill. So I think he was overreaching a little bit. So he's like, how am I going to fit that in there? I really want to do this, but it doesn't really fit. Instead of just doing very, like, many small things here, but no, it has to be bigger, better, and outdo other people in a way. But yeah, so the practical approach might not always be what he wants to do. He will eventually do it, but like the ideas are much bigger. And this one here, he's giving off some kind of King Arthur vibes, like the sword out of the stone kind of thing. So yeah, just like Arthur, being a just ruler, taking everything into consideration, not applying one method to all. And yeah, really earning his position, working for it, and making it happen. In the Arcana, yeah, here he's just standing there. Like he has the butterflies around him. He's got a very stern face. So he's the kind of guy, like, I don't really know how to approach him. I don't know what he's thinking. Like, to me, this like, I don't know what to do with this one. Like, I don't see his sword. I don't know which way it would swing. So this is kind of like, anything goes. Like, he could surprise me in a good way. He could surprise me in a bad way. And my favorite King of Swords is from the Haunted House. And here, yeah, he's the strategist. He's like planning his moves, and he can think of many different ways how to play this. And the swords are actually there kind of like as trophies or something on the back. So he might be the kind of guy, like, he's really good with like the strategies and stuff, but he may not ever take action. So he's like in his thoughts and playing the mind games and being 2 steps ahead of everyone else. But will he ever actually do anything? So that's the question with this guy. But I love the depiction with the chessboard. Okay, so that's what I have about the swords. Now let's move on to the pentacles.
I'm like, if you hear crying in the background, it's my nephew. He's having a moment. So
Oh my God.
Like, I might go check on him, Carla, if you
Okay. All righty. I know B's gone, but what we were talking about was she asked about the astrological association. I think that Zach uses like the Thoth and the Golden Dawn, and
the Golden Dawn astrology, yeah.
The fixed, that all the kings are in the fixed signs. So it's
Mhm.
like, it just depends on what system you're using. It would be my, so there's not a right or a wrong. So some people see them as cardinal. Some people, I don't think they would be
Yeah.
mutable, but either cardinal or fixed. So, I mean, yeah. But anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning. So the King
Mhm.
of Pentacles is my favorite king. Not that I really would want to be in a relationship with him, but I would definitely like to have him as my friend because he is capable of getting pretty much anything that he wants, anything that he thinks he needs, and anything that he desires. He's like the master of manifesting. He's like, he gets the final say out of everything. So that's like, that's his kingdom, and it's just, it looks really busy to me, but
Mm.
you know, he seems to be comfortable there. In the spellcasters, he's looking like, you know,
Ooh.
give me some grapes or something, you know. He's definitely a master of his domain there.
Living a good life.
Yeah, this is also one of my favorite cards because not only is, I think he's handsome. I love all the gray hair. Um, if anybody as old as I am remembers Grizzly Adams, that's who he looks like, and he was so handsome. But anyway, yeah. So he's like, he's he's logical as far as, like, you know, he uses everything that his mind to, like, he really thinks about, and you can see all the books, you know, and he's like uses everything that he has and utilizes it to get what he wants or needs. He has everything. He even has his soulmate. He's extremely happy. Yes. Farah says that he's the Midas touch. He is the king with the Midas touch. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because that's who I see here. And then, like, my favorite King of Pentacles is this guy right here. Let me get him out. Oh, I love him. The King of Pentacles in the Supernatural is Crowley. And
Ooh.
he really was one of my favorite characters in the Supernatural series, because he was just like, I don't know, he went for, everybody thought he was kind of like a bad guy, but then you ended up loving him, you know? Like I said, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him, but I would want him as my friend because he's capable of getting whatever he wants, you know? So,
And he was funny.
and oh, I know. I love it. I love it. So if in the fixed sign, that would make him Taurus.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so, and then, yeah, if he was cardinal, it'd be Capricorn. So I could actually see the king be either, the King
Mm.
of Pentacles to be either in that one. But that's all I have.
Okay. So we're gonna give Zach a little more time. So I'm just gonna jump right in. So here is the Robert Lang deck. And next to it, the Hermetic Tarot. So he is called the Prince of the Chariot of Earth. You didn't see Supernatural? Oh my God, you would love it. I'm sure of it. Like, give the first season a chance. Like, it gets better, but the relationship between the two brothers and then all the side characters that are added as the series progresses, yeah, just give it some time.
That's
but
awesome.
It's good.
Yeah.
And here is the Initiatory Golden Dawn. So that's that. Okay. Okay, the Prince of Pentacles, he is in the Golden Dawn. He's the heir of Earth, the Prince of Pentacles. And yeah, we can see that his chariot is being drawn by a bull. And his crest on his chest is a winged bull's head. And that is, of course, the symbol for Taurus. And yeah, so the slow moving but unshakable kind of force. In one hand, he holds a scepter that has like an orb and a cross on it. In the other hand, he holds an orb that's kind of upside down. And yeah, so this symbolizes increase of matter, of good and evil, solidifying things. He's practical, he's steady, he's reliable. The scepter is the symbol of his earthly dominion, and the orb is the completion of great work. And upside down, it implies misused power. Ill-dignified, this person is materialistic, kind of animalistic, can make stupid decisions. He's slow to anger, but furious if he gets mad, and can even be violent. Astrologically, rules from 20 degrees Aries to 20 degrees Taurus. He has the fertile spark from his father, the king, and the enduring power of his mother, the queen. So yeah, he has a very potent energy about him. And it may always seem like he's moving forward with steady patience. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon with him. So that's what the Gold Dawn has to say about him. And in the RWS, he is fire of earth. And yeah, this king looks like he actually really enjoys being king in his domain. His throne, the robe, and nature, everything looks like it's kind of one. It's all flowing into each other. It's well connected. And he is the king of the material world. He has wealth, power, prestige, fame, luxury. He can be very sensual, earthy. He's solid. He loves nature. And the way that he holds his pentacle, it's like, unlike other, like for example, the Page of Pentacles, he's not worshiping it. It's simply there. Like his hand is just resting on it. So he's easy with money. He already accumulated what he needs, and so he doesn't have to worry about it too much anymore. So this is also the kind of person who's not afraid of his responsibilities. He has claimed the success that he wanted to achieve in life, and he is now taking it for granted because he knows that he worked for it, he's earned it, it's his, it's all good. And yeah, he looks like a very pleasant man. He's not very challenging or confrontational. He looks very relaxed, benevolent, and he's very much at home in his world. But yeah, he's still very practical and ready to go, because one thing is, like, he kept his armor underneath his flowy robe. So if need be, he can actually still go and fight. But yeah, he chooses to just enjoy everything. But yeah, if he's needed, he will be there. So in a negative way, he can be very materialistic to the exclusion of other things or even other people. So that always reminds me of Scrooge McDuck in a way. He can, like, his overindulgence can pull him out of balance. So the question is, like, quality or quantity? What is he choosing? Like, this is the quality, this is the quantity. And with quantity, that can also make him like a womanizer type of thing. Like, he's indulging in all kinds of things that the earth has to offer him. And yeah, otherwise, he's a pretty good common sense kind of person, and he's got an easygoing temper. Reversed, this is the kind of person who lacks moral restraints. So he will ruin other people to get what he wants. So this is the kind of person who may have a few skeletons in the closet, and he would move the entire factory into a poor country to save on costs for production, and increasing his profit. So yeah, he can be vulgar, greedy, irresponsible, and not to be trusted. So when this comes up, make sure you get a good deal in the prenup. Okay, in the Lo Scarabeo tarot here, he sits like he has both hands on his pentacle, and the pentacle is actually showing the world. Like there's the globe on it. So yeah, he has the entire world in his hands. He worked for it. He's sitting on his fortune. The wine is coming through, so everything's good. Nothing to worry about. And the Vampiria here, he's also like, he's not really bothered by too much. He knows who he is. He knows what he can do. He's got his riches there. Everything's fine. And the Housewife's Tarot, he's very relaxed. Like he's the most relaxed of the kings. Like he's got his newspapers. The dog is there. He's got his Sunday robe over his clothes, or is that pajama? Yeah, he's still wearing his pajamas. So he's reading his Sunday newspaper with his pipe. So he's just very relaxed. So, and the dog will warn him if anything comes up, and then he will react. Until then, he's just busy reading his paper. This probably could have also been like for the King of Cups when I said that he was a good poker player. But this also kind of fits him because since he is also very good with money, winning through games is not something that he can't do. So yeah, this kind of fits. But yeah, I could also see it with the King of Cups. And the Arcana, here his hands are behind his back, so he's not closed off. He's very open. People can approach him. He's lived the spoils of the land, so yeah, he's enjoying the good life. He's got a little bit of a coin purse right here, so if anything comes up, he can just spend a little money if he wants to. He also has this huge rock of emerald that can still be mined right next to him. He actually goes out of his castle. He doesn't just stay inside of the castle. He goes out, he wanders around, meets people. So he's not unapproachable. And in the haunted house, yeah, this is also kind of giving me like Game of Thrones attitude here. Just sitting on his throne. He's got everything he needs. But here, since the money and everything, the treasure is in front of him, to me, he looks kind of like it's not easy to approach him. This is kind of like a barrier in between him and other people. So he has that, but he kind of uses that to shield himself and protect himself from everything. So he can use that to, like, for whatever situation comes up in his life, basically. Okay, so Zach is back.
I'm back. Crisis averted.
Good.
What the coins, right? The King of Coins?
Yeah. The
Right.
pentacle.
I'm like, what can I say that hasn't already been said? AKA, what has been said? I'm like, I feel like he really fits the Taurus energy of Taurus's phrase being, I have. But it's like, you can have a lot of things, and it could all be trash. And this is what like Lady Knight Maria, she was talking about with quality versus quantity. And so it's like usually most Tauruses are pretty good at quality control and knowing that like that the luxury that they have is luxurious. They're pretty, I feel like they know what is a counterfeit or genuine, you know, and they may even like the counterfeit things because and know that it's counterfeit, but they just aesthetically like it maybe because it does something a little different than what the real stuff does. But one thing that I found is that some of the cards on the King of Coins kind of gives like King of Wands vibes with like the king here. very golden and very yellow and reds and oranges going on here. But the coin is very obvious there. But it's just the if my camera will focus on it, it's just the scepter on him that just like makes me that my brain immediately goes, uh, wands. Uh, what else? What else? I'm not sure. other than of other than probably like the carnality of the King of Wands is another thing. But this deck here, the Marielle, I'm gonna cover his genitals. I don't know how well YouTube will react to him, but we have here. Let me see if I can do this right. There we go. Censorship. There we go. We have Pan, and here she gives the king's earth. So it's Earth of Earth. This is the earthiest of the Earth cards, rather where we see in the Golden Dawn. That's the Princess of Discs or the Page of Discs. She flips it around a bit. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But there, it's like you see that pure carnality and that finality of Earth and its holiness, I guess, and its wholeness, if that makes sense. And yeah, there's another aspect of blessing the physical, I think, and a lot of like the astral and the divine again entering the physical here with again and that's just the basic symbolism of the pentacle itself, of the star in the coin, as metals representing planetary planets. The sun and the moon is silver and gold, and all that stuff being in the earth. It's the as above so below, and the King of Coins is definitely that so below as above part. So yeah, I'm not sure what else I could add to it, but yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to something else.
Oh God.
Okay. So something that we haven't talked about with all the court cards is, like, unlike the minors, we have all placed them in the tree of life. But then when it comes to the court cards, there's different sources that say different things. Here I have two of the things that I found in some of the books that I have. And yeah, so we can see that we have the four worlds here on the tree. And on the left side, this is more RWS. On the right side, we can see, based on the names, it's more Thoth, Golden Dawn. So, Zach, maybe you can help us a little bit with that. Like, what would you say, like, where do the court cards actually fit and why?
So, where to start with this? Okay, so first of all, where did you get the one on my left?
These are, like, the picture itself is from this book, and I got wait, where did I get those from? That's a good question. I know I wrote down, I think one is from this book. That would be the RWS. And I think this one is from the other one, the Thothy Golden Dawn stuff.
Okay, so the one on the left, the one where you see the pages at the top in Aitzaluth, and then the knights in Briah, the queens in Yetzirah, and the kings in Asya. I believe that people would usually switch knights and queens there and keep or rather, no, they would put, again, this one's very interesting. I'm like, Knights of Briah, that doesn't really vibe well. And then, in the Queens of Yetzirah, that doesn't either. Usually what they would do is Knights in Aitzaluth, Pages in Asya at the very bottom, Kings in Yetzirah, and the Queens in Briah. And some people will, depending on how they feel with Yetzirah and Aitzaluth, they might switch the kings and the knights, depending on the elements that they view them. I view the kings as air, I just don't view them as active as fire as the knights are, so that's why. But as a simple like keeping everything in line as pages, knights, queens, and then kings in order of the of the court cards as they've been in traditions, as traditional as they can be, and then just layering it on top of it, simplifying it as pages to Aitzuluth, knights in Bria, queen in Yetzura, and kings in Asya. I'm like that can work. It's not wrong. It's just uncomfortable to the Golden Dawn view of things. Like I said, Marielle does it like this. I don't think she does Knights for Bria. I should check. I have the books here somewhere. Oh, let me see here. I'm like, let's see here. Let me check. I'm like, if she does that, I'm like, okay. Which I again, I need to double check where you got that. Let's see here. Yeah, she doesn't say the four worlds, but she does give water to the queens and air to the knights. Oh no, but then yeah, she mixes up a lot. She gives the hay, which it would be Bria, to the knights, and Vav, Yetzura, air, to the queens. So I'm like, Mary White, what are we doing here? I'll have to look more into that. But if you want to get a solid base understanding, and which honestly makes the most sense, is to go with the one on the right here, the queens and the knights at the top, and then the princes should be right on Tiferet, and that would be where they go, and then the princesses as Malkut, and the princesses would represent Asya, Earth, and then the princes would represent Yetzura. And now Yetzura, this is where Bria and Yetzura, there's a lot of like mixed correspondences here, where Yetzura, for the most part, contains Tiferet, but whether that also contains Gabura and Hesed, I'm not sure. I think it does. And then they put Bria with Hokmah and Bina, and then Aitzuluth with just Keter, or some people will put Aitzuluth with the first top three, Sephira, Keter, Hokmah, and Bina, 1, 2, and 3 with Aitzuluth, and then Bria with Gabura and Hesed, and then Tiferet, Hod, Yesod, and Netzach with Yetzura, and then Asya with the princesses. It's all like, it's a lot of new terminology and all that kind of gets in the way. So it's usually easier to put the elements on there as fire, water, air, and earth in descending order, fire at the top, earth at the bottom. But even then, again, there is a lot of disagreements with water and air of like as to whether or not they go with which one, whether that be Yetzira or Bria. I tend to go for Bria with water and Yetzira as air, but even then it's like just little things, it's just ever so slightly off on the correspondences to that just like I'm like, maybe it's not. But yeah, other than that, for the most part, I view the knights in Hokmah because it's that active principle. It goes forth, it drives, it pushes, it moves forward. And then the queens are to keep that gender binary there, is more receptive, reflective. It's like the calm surface of water that's ready to receive the energy of Hokmah to activate and cause a stir and make things happen and change things. It's the platform or the surface or the, sometimes they call it a matrix, but I don't want to say that because that makes people think of certain things, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's the, damn, it's the simulation that kind of, it's the models in the simulation that move, I think, and Hokma is what makes them move, if that makes sense. The princes and the kings in Tiferet, they're the center, they're balanced, they're connected to the rest of the tree, and to me that's where they're more secure and grounded, as grounded as they can be. I guess the most grounded would be the princesses and the pages and Earth, but for the most part they should be able to gather that groundedness from below, but they're not really directly connected to Malkuth, are they? With Tiferet, they got Yesod, Hoda, Netzach, the 7, 8, and 9, in the way of 10 there. So which I'm like, which always confuses me. I'm like, I always think like the princes and the kings as Tiferet. Tiferet is viewed as such like in such a positive light. But yet when you look at the court cards, they're so like cunning and manipulative and sometimes vindictive and quite cruel at times with the descriptions of them in like Crowley and the Golden Dawn. So it's kind of, there's a contrast there, but I guess that's where we kind of have to remove the holy tree of life part from the tarot card part. I guess there's a distance there, there's something off there, maybe. Something to look into. But yeah, the princesses as Earth, it's physical, it's manifestation, as they say, it's the material itself. But as kings, though, I'm remembering one of the things that Mary White writes on the Emperor, which she associates to Earth quite strongly as the final He in the 4-letter word of Yod He Vav He, and it is Asiya there. She notes the story of, I think, is it King Arthur or is it the Fisher King? Where the king is sick and old and dying, and the land is reflected in that. The land is also sick and dying, and there's like it's like in a wintry type of state. And so the king as reflective of the earth, and so there's also the stories of the Holly King and the Oak King, I think it is, that one has to sacrifice to lead for the other. Yeah, that's the best that I can see with the kings there. But for the most part, for anyone to get a grasp on this, or to not get so caught up in as to whether or not they're in like the correct correspondences or whatever, I'm going to point to a book I highly recommend for this, and that is The Revised New Art Tarot, Mysticism and Kabbalah in the Naphal Tarot, by Yolanda M. Robinson, PhD. And here, this is what she writes on the world card, because in the world card of the, let me see if I can show it, of the Naphal Tarot, I've shown a few cards from it here throughout the stream, some of the Emperor and the kings from this deck. Here she puts, hopefully I can find it soon, here it is. You're going to see something quite different with the suits and the order of the world card here. So Naphal, the J. Augustus Knapp and Manly P. Hall, they put the cup with the eagle for Scorpio. That makes the most sense, but they switch everything around with the rest. They put the wand with the man, which is supposed to be Aquarius and air, but the wand is fire. They put the sword with the bull. The sword is air, but the bull is earth. And we have the lion with the coin, fire with earth. So they say here but everybody does that. We hear about the cups and the swords and the wands and the swords being mixed around, but for the most part we tend to think that Pentacles tends to say the same. But I believe it was Atea or Papus that gives the coins fire, and switches around a few other things. But here, let me see here. Where should I start with reading this? It might be a lot, but let's see. Okay, here we go. We're gonna start. We'll let's see. I think we'll start here. The emblems that signify the four suits of the minor arcana have been added to the figures, but not in the way that they are usually assigned. The man carries the scepter or wands, the cup is next to the eagle, the coin by the lion, the sword superimposed on the bull. J.A. Knapp paired the figures with the symbols in an unusual, non systemic way. The attributions are meant to add another divinatory level of interpretation, as explained by Knapp in Divination with Cards, 1930. Following the publication of the 1929 deck. The rather tenuous explanation alludes to the test of the four elements on our four vehicles of expression, which here are the physical, the etheric, the mental, and the astral bodies. Swords represents the physical body, or earth element. Scepters represent the etheric body, or air element. Pentacles represent the mental body, or fire element. Cups represent the astral body, or the water, and that is from Divination with Tarot Cards, I believe, by J. Augustus Knapp. Man, eagle, lion, and bull appear together often in mystery traditions with different symbolic meanings. Eliphas Levi, for example, describes their symbology as follows. The symbolical tetrad, represented in the mysteries of Memphis and Thebes by the four forms of the Sphinx, man, eagle, lion, and bull, correspond with the four elements of the old world. Water being signified by the cup held by the man or Aquarius, air, air by the circle or nimbus surrounding the head of the celestial eagle, fire by the wood which nourishes it, by the tree fructifying in the heat of the earth and sun, finally by the scepter of royalty which the line typifies. Earth is by the sword of Mithras, which each year immolates the sacred bull, and together with its blood pours forth its sap, which gives increase to all fruits of the earth. We can find many singular attributions to these figures through the centuries. Depending on the ways we interpret these four symbols, their correspondences will change. Tarot cards lend themselves to infinite interpretations. Each arcanum accepts all sorts of contradictions because this is an open, not closed system of knowledge. New and old attributions work in tandem to amplify meanings and to offer new channels of interpretation. The source or point of reference should provide us with the clue to extract the meaning, as we will find with the minor arcana. Pappas, for example, assigns the swords to earth and the pentacle to air when connecting key 21 to Yod He Vav He and the elements. C.C. Zane does the same. So you can see that there's like a lot of like, again, there was that mention of Mithras, which Carla, I believe, showed with the King of Swords, right? Which I'm like, okay, there's that. I'm like, do they know something? Are they onto something? Like coincidence, you know? And so there, it's definitely, and one of the things that I believe even the Golden Dawn says is once you're comfortable with the set beginner correspondences of the Tree of Life, they say to essentially go off and do your own personal correspondences for your own stuff and say like, you know what, yeah, this makes totally way more sense, you know, compared to the traditional how we view it with, you know, wands to fire and the lion, cups to eagle and water, and then sword to bull and no, oh gosh, now I'm getting confused now. Coin to bull and earth, and then sword to man and air. You see, fair. I need visuals. I'm like, there's no visuals, girl. It's a lot of highlighted stuff. I'm sorry, girl. I'm like, this is the most visuals you get. You can look at the Pappas deck, but I'm like, really, it's all being explained there. I'm like, there's PowerPoint maybe in the the future. It's like, this is a good, that's just basically the point is to show is that it's not the correspondences aren't always so set in stone, which is why I always think it's like strip it all back and just keep it to elements: fire, water, air, and earth, which is why I like Shimmering Veil and all that. It's like the suits and all that kind of gets in the way. Another thing that kind of gets in the way with the court cards coming back to the kings and the princes and all that, and the order of things and the four elements and the Tree of Life on that is, I think what gets in the way of a lot of people is the hierarchies. I hear a lot of people saying like, this is the king in this system, i.e. like they say the knight with the thoth, but then they'll say like, no, the princesses are much more important, so obviously they're the kings. It's like, no.
Yeah.
They're princesses, they're knights, they're like, it's the adamancy of instilling a hierarchy onto there, which we all know that each of the 16 court cards has a strength and a weakness. Not one is more powerful or more important than the other. There are things that the queens can do that the kings can't. And there's also the problem with like restricting the gender binary in a way, but that's a whole nother path to go down with non-binary stuff, which it's like, yeah, anyways. We'll be here all day if we get down into that rabbit hole, especially in relation to the court cards. But so yeah, it's our brains hearing terms like prince and princesses and kings and queens that we want to instill that hierarchy, where it's like it's best to don't instill that and view them as a wheel. That's what I always say. View the four as a wheel of four spokes, and not one is more important or higher up than the other, even though the tree of life does kind of instill that hierarchy. But they do say that Malkut is just as holy as Keter.
Okay.
So it's like it's all important. It's not one, you know, it's just more like one is simplified to meanwhile one is more complexified, if that's a word.
Yeah.
But
it's a piece of the whole.
Yeah. Yes. It's a piece of the whole.
And they all have different jobs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That was brilliant. So since we're on the topic of showing books, like I said at the end of this whole series, I was going to show the books that I used as my sources. So one of them was from the tarot deck, the Golden Dawn Ritual Tarot. So this one gave me a lot of my Golden Dawn information when it comes to RWS. I used the Tarot and the Tree of Life. This one is talking about the minor arcana. And for the majors, I was using this book, Archetypes on the Tree of Life. And then another good book that unfortunately doesn't include the entire tree. It starts at 4, goes down to 10, so it's missing the first 3, but still Tarot of the Gates of Light. Also has some really interesting stuff to say about the cards. And so those are a few recommendations that I can give when you want to look into the cards, especially when it comes to connecting it with this. So final question to everyone on the panel. Oh yeah, that book too.
Yeah, that was recommended by Farah, actually, and it was a turning point for me after reading it. So it helped immensely. And I consider myself very beginner, you know, so it helped a lot.
Yeah. So out of all the 16 court cards that we have, which one is your favorite? Zach?
Oh, me. I would have to say I really like the King of Coins. I really like the King of Pentacles. I don't know why. I don't know. There's something about him. Him and the what else? There's another one. I like the oh gosh, all my cards being shuffled. I really like the Page of Cups and the Page of Pentacles as well. And the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Cups. I really don't go for the swords or the wands as much. For some reason, they always seem lacking. I don't know why. There's like a lusciousness.
What about you, Carla?
Yeah. Definitely the King of Pentacles. I mean, I've had other favorites, but he is, I mean, like that I liked, but he's my favorite. Pretty much why I said when I was talking about him is because I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him, but I would want him as like one of my best friends. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, for me, one of my favorites is the Page of Cups, because that's also my Myers-Briggs card, the INFP. And I can see myself in that card quite a lot. And another card that I really like is the Queen of Pentacles, because she just has that very calm but get things done energy. And yeah, it's just that nurturing, listening. It's like all that good stuff that, she's the kind of person I just want to sit down with her, have a cup of tea, talk about God in the world, and I know that's going to be a good conversation. So, yeah. The holistic tarot is a really good one.
Holistic tarot is very like all encompassing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't believe it, but we're actually done with this whole series. This has been so much fun. We learned a lot. I mean, just from taking notes, I learned a lot, and listening to all of our guests. So yeah, this is the point where we just want to say thank you to everyone who's been a guest on our panels, each and every one. This has been really inspiring. Thank you to everyone who was also in the chat, joining in on the conversation and sharing your knowledge, your ideas. This was great. And yeah, I will make sure to put all of the videos in a playlist. So if anyone wants to watch back, you can find all the videos, because we were always streaming on different channels. And if you want to see all of them, you can see them in a playlist. So yeah, this was great. And today, thank you once again to Zach for being here. Thanks to Carla. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their Sundays, wherever you are in the world. For me, it's almost midnight. It's like almost 10 p.m. here. So yeah, my day is pretty much done. All right. Well, that's it for this series. Thank you, everyone. And see you for another series sometime in the future. Bye.
Another.